Imagine you carry a silent vault beneath your skin, a quiet treasury of ancient energy. You see it in the mirror and call it belly fat. Biology calls it reserve. Decades ago, doctors in Scotland observed a case that shattered common beliefs about starvation physiology. The patient was Angus Barbieri, whose medically supervised fast lasted 382 days without solid food. His story was documented in the Postgraduate Medical Journal in 1973 by attending physicians there. Under clinical monitoring, his weight fell from 207 kilograms to 82 kilograms. Harvard medical educators later used this case to illustrate how human metabolism adapts under supervision. You might expect collapse, yet the body reached inward, unlocking vast stores within adipose tissue. Adipose tissue is not wasted flesh. It is compressed sunlight, archived as chemical potential energy. Roughly 1 pound of fat contains 3,500 calories waiting in metabolic silence. Across your abdomen, you may be carrying 100,000 calories, sometimes even twice that. It is a reservoir older than agriculture, preserved by evolution for uncertain days of scarcity. But here is the paradox that unsettles you after only several hours without eating anything. Your stomach growls, your hands tremble, and your mind whispers that disaster is approaching soon. How can a body filled with energy feel desperate, as if the spark is fading? Researchers at the National Institutes of Health describe this as signaling problem, not an emergency. Insulin, the quiet conductor, keeps the pantry locked, guarding sugar inside your cells and liver. When resistance builds, that conductor knocks louder, yet the doors to stored fuel stay closed. So you wander through the kitchen of your body, surrounded by food you cannot reach. Cortisol rises, memories of comfort meals echo, and your brain mistakes habit for survival instinct. This moment feels like hunger, yet it is closer to withdrawal from familiar fuel stream. The frightening truth is that the vault is full, but the key has gone missing. Scientists at Stanford describe this mismatch as metabolic inflexibility, a consequence of standing insulin signals. Your body becomes a truck loaded with fuel, while the engine cannot open its tank. Every signal urges you toward another meal, even though the warehouse behind you remains untouched. In the next part, you will step inside those uneasy hours when the storm begins. You will feel craving, the dizziness, and the haunting question about where strength has gone. Yet beneath that discomfort, a deeper story is waiting, and its first chapter opens soon. During the first 48 hours, you feel a storm that does not belong to hunger. Your body is not collapsing. It is rewriting priorities as glycogen reserves begin to fade. Glycogen stored inside your liver empties like a city reservoir during a sudden drought. Researchers at the Mayo Clinic describe this period as a predictable depletion phase in fasting physiology. As those stores fall, the hormone ghrelin rises like a persuasive messenger climbing toward your brain. Ghrelin speaks in emotional language, turning appetite into urgency and patience into restless agitation. This is why you feel hangry, a blend of hunger signals and defensive instinct. The National Institutes of Health has documented rhythmic ghrelin waves that peak at habitual mealtimes. Here comes the twist. Those waves pass even when no food arrives, like tides without a moon. Meanwhile, your blood glucose dips, and gluconeogenesis quietly awakens inside your liver and kidneys. Through this pathway, proteins are recycled into glucose to safeguard red blood cells and delicate neurons. You worry about losing muscle, and that fear is understandable because weakness feels close. But clinical reviews from Harvard Medical School emphasize that this stage is temporary, under proper supervision. Your body prefers to preserve lean tissue while it searches for alternative fuel downstream. Cortisol rises slightly, sharpening awareness, while your heart beats like a cautious drummer in the dark. You interpret this alarm as danger, yet the machinery is simply adjusting operating mode. The headache, the chills, the trembling hands are echoes of dependence on constant carbohydrate supply. Here is the real paradox. You are not energy poor, you are metabolically homesick. Your brain has spent decades renting comfort from glucose, and now the contract is expiring. Many people quit here, believing collapse is near, but the storm is mostly psychological. Stanford neuroscientists have shown that ghrelin also influences memory and reward circuits during food anticipation. That is why old meals appear in your imagination like nostalgic postcards from the past. You might ask, will my body cannibalize itself if I continue through this night? The answer is no, because this phase is a bridge, not a destination. As the hours stretch, the signals soften, and a new rhythm begins forming underneath. This is the last bend before the landscape changes and clarity replaces fatigue. You are not dying of starvation, you are switching operating systems in real time. In the next part, we will cross that bridge and watch the switch finally click. Then, sometime after the third day, something unexpected begins to happen inside you. The storm quiets, the trembling fades, and a strange calm spreads through your thoughts. You notice that hunger no longer shouts, it only whispers like a distant echo. This is the turning point, the moment when your body finally finds the missing key. Researchers at the University of Minnesota describe this transition as metabolic switching during prolonged fasting. Lipolysis accelerates, and your fat cells open like storage vaults releasing fatty acids. Your liver receives those molecules and transforms them into ketones through elegant biochemical choreography. Among them, beta-hydroxybutyrate, or BHB, becomes the star fuel of this new era. According to studies referenced by the NIH, BHB crosses the blood-brain barrier efficiently. It delivers energy with lower oxidative stress, allowing neurons to operate with cleaner metabolic sparks. Here comes the twist. Your brain begins to prefer ketosis rather than constant glucose supply. The fog lifts, and you feel alert, steady, almost sharpened like a hunter in the wild. Anthropologists at Harvard often describe this state as an evolutionary adaptation for food seeking. Your ancestors needed clarity during scarcity, not weakness, so your biology honors that memory. You once feared muscle loss, yet another guardian has quietly risen to protect you. Human growth. Hormone, or HGH, surges upward, sometimes several-fold according to controlled clinical observations. Researchers at the University of Washington explain that this spike preserves lean muscle mass. Your body is not careless. It does not consume vital tissue while abundant fat remains. This is the real twist. Weakness belonged to the old operating system, not the new one. As ketosis stabilizes, your mood steadies, and focus becomes warmer and more deliberate. Some studies from the Journal of Physiology also note improved neural signaling under ketone availability. You might wonder, why does your mind feel calm when logic predicts fatigue? The answer is that BHB interacts with signaling pathways tied to resilience and clarity. It quiets inflammatory noise, giving your thoughts room to breathe without internal interference. This is not euphoria. It is sobriety from metabolic chaos that once ruled your days. Your body is not punishing you. It is revealing an ancient capacity you always carried. And yet, this awakening is only one layer of the story unfolding beneath your skin. Because when fuel becomes steady, another hidden program begins to rise from the cellular deep. In the next part, we will follow that program as your body starts cleaning house. When digestion goes silent, your body does not sit idle. It begins a deeper mission. With fuel now steady, your cells turn inward and start examining their own broken furniture. This is the moment when autophagy awakens, like a patient janitor returning to an abandoned factory. In 2016, the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine honored Yoshinori Osumi for decoding this process. His work revealed how cells dismantle damaged proteins and malfunctioning organelles to recycle their raw materials. Under fasting, the mTOR pathway steps aside, lowering its growth commands and allowing repair to take command. Researchers at the National Institutes of Health describe this as a shift from construction toward maintenance mode. Inside your cells, worn-out mitochondria are tagged, folded, and carried into recycling chambers for renewal. You are not shrinking. You are pruning chaos so healthier cells can take the stage. Here comes the quiet twist. This cleanup does not merely extend lifespan, it sharpens performance in the present. Studies from institutions such as MIT show that controlled suppression of mTOR enhances cellular resilience under stress. You begin to feel a subtle lightness, not only in your body, but in your thinking. Beta-hydroxybutyrate whispers through your nervous system and interacts with pathways linked to BDNF expression. BDNF, often discussed in Harvard neuroscience literature, supports synaptic plasticity and learning like fertilizer for neuronal gardens. Your brain does not feel hyperactive. It feels organized, as if cluttered files were finally archived. Meanwhile, inflammation cools, like a city after a long summer storm, discovering quiet air again. Researchers at the University of California report reductions in oxidative stress markers during sustained ketosis states. You might ask, is this improvement simply psychological, or is something real happening beneath perception? The answer is tangible because cellular housekeeping clears molecular debris that once distorted communication signals. Old proteins that once gummed machinery are removed, giving metabolism smoother gears and steadier rhythms. This does not mean fasting is magical, nor does it make you invincible against disease. Medical reviews from the Mayo Clinic emphasize that benefits depend on supervision, context, and personal health conditions. Your body carries wisdom, but it also carries limits that must be respected with humility. And yet, inside those limits, you witness a rare harmony between evolution, restraint, and renewal. You are not starving your body, you are allowing it to finish overdue maintenance work. But every system that repairs must also face a boundary. And beyond that boundary lies risk. Because if the reserve continues shrinking, another story begins, one that demands caution and reverence. In the next part, we will approach that edge and examine what happens as reserves run low. As fat stores continue shrinking, the story of renewal slowly turns into a story of limits. Your body is wise, but it is also pragmatic, and survival demands difficult trade-offs. When adipose fuel thins, cortisol rises like an emergency dispatcher, coordinating fallback energy strategies. Endocrinology, research referenced by the NIH, describes this phase as stress-mediated protein mobilization. Your body begins sampling amino acids from structural tissues to maintain essential glucose through gluconeogenesis. This is not punishment, it is triage, a final effort to protect the brain and heart. Yet here comes the sobering twist. Prolonged scarcity can gradually erode scaffolds that once kept you strong. Muscle fibers thin, connective proteins weaken, and recovery becomes slower than your mind expects. Mayo Clinic clinical reviews emphasize that extended fasting beyond supervision increases risk for electrolyte instability. Phosphate, potassium, and magnesium behave like quiet architects, stabilizing cellular electricity and cardiac rhythm. When reserves fall too low, those architects begin to leave their posts without dramatic warning. The frightening truth is that your body rarely sounds loud alarms until imbalance is already advancing. Researchers from the European Society for Clinical Nutrition describe arrhythmias emerging from severe mineral depletion. You might wonder whether your improved clarity means everything remains safe beneath the surface. The answer is complicated because performance can feel steady even while internal buffers weaken silently. Cortisol continues signaling, and protein catabolism becomes less selective when fat no longer carries the load. Bone marrow, immune tissue, and organ proteins may slowly join the metabolic negotiation for survival. Harvard-affiliated medical literature notes immune vulnerability during extreme undernutrition and prolonged catabolic states. This is where fasting leaves the realm of adaptation and approaches the frontier of risk. And if feeding returns suddenly after deep depletion, another danger stands waiting at the threshold. It is called Refeeding Syndrome, a well-documented medical complication described by the World Health Organization. When carbohydrates rush back in, insulin surges and drives electrolytes into cells at high speed. Phosphate levels can plunge, the heart strains, and breathing muscles may falter under metabolic whiplash. This is why leading hospitals insist that refeeding after long fasts requires expert guidance and monitoring. Your body is resilient, but re-entry must be deliberate, patient, and rooted in medical judgment. You are not fragile, yet you are operating near boundaries shaped by millions of evolutionary years. Respecting those boundaries is not fear, it is wisdom, and wisdom keeps renewal from turning into harm. In the final part, we will explore how to return from fasting with care, dignity, and balance. Coming back from fasting is not a victory march. It is a careful landing. Your body has crossed an ancient landscape of conservation, repair, and quiet biological negotiation. Now it asks you to re-enter the modern world with patience, respect, and self-awareness. Medical literature from the Cleveland Clinic reminds us that nourishment is a process, not an on-switch. Small portions, balanced electrolytes, and gradual reintroduction protect your heart, your breath, and your rhythm. You are not rewarding yourself after deprivation. You are greeting a traveler who has walked far. In this transition, humility becomes your greatest ally, and curiosity becomes your compass. You begin noticing how your appetite no longer shouts. It speaks in softer, clearer tones. Ketosis slowly fades, mTOR resumes its constructive duties, and tissue rebuilding follows a measured cadence. Your physiology is not at war with you. It is simply adapting to a different season. Here is the gentle twist. The true treasure of fasting was never the shrinking of your waistline. It is the awareness that your body carries an inherited intelligence older than any diet trend. Every hormone, every pathway, every surge of cortisol or wave of BDNF tells a story of survival. You now understand why glycogen rises, why lipolysis awakens, and why autophagy sweeps the cellular corridors. This knowledge does not make you fearless, it makes you responsible for the vessel you inhabit. And that responsibility includes seeking medical guidance before attempting prolonged fasting on your own. Hospitals and research institutions worldwide emphasize supervision because biology deserves both curiosity and caution. You walk away not with bravado, but with reverence for the quiet systems sustaining you. If this journey helped you see your body with deeper clarity, I invite you to stay connected. If you found value here, please like this video and subscribe so more people can discover insights like these. Share your reflections in the comments, because your story may become someone else's turning point. Your experience matters, and your perspective enriches this learning community we are building together. You are not chasing shortcuts, you are cultivating wisdom about how energy, time, and biology intertwine. And as you step forward, you carry a renewed respect for the ancient engine within you. I hope this video brings value to you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next videos.